Hi, how are you? Today we were gonna take some of the quizzes from the 16 Personalities website that we were on last week, but you have to pay $29 for the basic upgrade, and I'm not gonna do that.
For a test, no.
No, fuck that.
For a test that somebody made on the website, absolutely not.
Come the fuck on. So yeah, no, we decided we're gonna just talk about why we even decided to make a podcast in the first place.
Yay!
And I think that's actually gonna be pretty interesting because I still have the audio from the first air quotes episode that we recorded.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it was like 40 minutes of us talking about boys and shit. And like that's not a bad thing, but
it was the driving force to why we started. We can say that.
Mm-hmm.
Because we found that we had a lot of deep conversations, and we would be like, "Oh, that was good.
We should have recorded that."
Right? Or we'd be like, "Oh, I like what you said. I think other people can listen to that."
Mm-hmm.
And we would say that to each other back and forth. A lot of times we would sit outside and talk. I would sit in a room and talk. And when I wasn't living here, we would be on the phone and talk about just a lot of stuff, and it would just go into like really, really deep conversations. And we're like, well, we have something worth saying. Why can't anybody else hear it? You know? So that's kind of really what started it, I guess.
Yeah, for me, it was more of like it wasn't just necessarily what we were saying, but how we were saying it. Like, I want to put my personality, my mentality on display, and I feel like it would be received well. Yeah.
And I think for me, I had a lot of people telling me that I was good with talking to other people. I don't want to be a therapist. So this is as close as I'm going to get. But I had some of my friends would come to me about relationship advice, although I've never been in a relationship, technically, kind of.
Coaches don't play.
And apparently I would give really good advice. And I had multiple people tell me that I should be a motivational speaker. I don't like standing in front of crowds, so that was never going to happen. But if I had so many people saying something that was similar to that, I felt like there should have been an outlet for me to be able to, I guess, give that to people. And then this opportunity presented itself. Now, I can't admit that I thought about it for a while. I just didn't know how to start it. As Kaylyn will say, I am an old lady.
Oh, but
and I don't really know how to use technology like that. So I needed to work with somebody that I trust, which obviously is Kaylyn, who knows what they're doing, how to get the platform to do it, and then allow me to do what I do best. Talk.
Yep. Yeah. For the last few episodes, I've been trying to literally there was one where I just sat there for like 12 minutes and just let her talk. And I know she was super uncomfortable with it because I didn't tell her I was going to do that until we started recording. But I fully have plans for the first Khairah is Here episode to just be 30 minutes of Khairah just going on about whatever she needs to get off her chest.
Oh, Lord.
It's going to be good. It's going to be good. Because one thing, it's not like, you're not one of those people that's like mindlessly rambling where like what you're saying has a coherent point the entire time. And
really?
Yeah. Like it might not be the same point as when you started talking, but it's still along the same thought train. And for the most part, you even catch me up on what the fuck I was talking about because I do ramble and forget what the fuck I was saying.
Well, see, I think I do that.
The way you do it is funny because you'll still be saying something that makes sense and then you'll stop in the middle of the sentence and be like, I forgot where I was going with this. And I'm like, how, bro? That was so coherent. Like, I'll be talking about like, what's a good example? Ooh, funny example. I'll be talking about how I have low executive function skills, which is a huge symptom of ADD, and then somehow I'll end up talking about why I don't like J-Lo. And I won't remember how I got on the first topic, you know what I mean? I won't remember how I got there at all.
Well, see, I feel like I'll be talking about the way that orange peel looks, and then somehow I'm talking about ice cream.
Well, see, I feel like that still makes sense because then you're talking about things that are edible still. You know what I mean?
Okay, I guess that's fair.
Yeah, man, you're still same group of thought. There we go. We'll call it that.
That's fair.
Yeah, my mental instability has nothing to do with J-Lo on a realistic level.
Yeah. Nothing to do with J-Lo. Yeah. Well, for us, we just decided that we wanted to make more money. Mm-hmm. We wanted to be able to use what is, I guess, the platforms that are available to promote ourselves and have our own business in an easier function. Like, in no way, shape, or form is doing or starting a YouTube/podcast easy. There's so much that has to go into it, and a lot that I didn't even realize. I thought it was just gonna be, oh, okay, cool, and then we're gonna get these
microphones, the lavs.
We had issues with the microphones. I forgot about that. Not promotions. What's the word?
Sponsorships?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We'll get sponsorships, and it's gonna be all like that, and oh, it's gonna be so easy. YouTubers have it easy. Now I see why it's so easy for them to get depressed, because you have to constantly come up with ideas. You have to make it entertaining. And me personally, thank God I have Kaylyn, because I don't like listening to my voice. So luckily she's taken over doing the editing, but there's so much that goes into it that you don't even realize that you're picking up, but you still have to have the drive to do it, to keep up with it. And I think that's one thing that really helped us, because we've been talking about it for so long. It wasn't just like a one-time idea and just be like, oh yeah, we should record this, okay, we're gonna start a podcast. We actually really did genuinely talk about it and map it out.
Kinda. We didn't map it out. I can't say we did that.
We mapped out the idea of it.
No, we didn't. Not before him. I think it was kind of, we had two conversations like, oh yeah, we should really record this, we should do a podcast, and then I did just randomly record one, and then after that I was like, I really want to do this. So then we started having more conversations about it. I remember it wasn't until I think I downloaded the Anchor app that I was like, oh, we need a logo, like we need a profile picture, we need a name, we need you know what I'm saying?
I'm not saying not that part, we definitely did map out, but I'm just saying we started deciding, okay, we have to come up with ideas and stuff, or we can write this down and talk about it later. We actually did that before you download the Anchor app, and then deciding that we needed mics, because we got that before we got the platform to record on, didn't we? Nope.
Because remember, we were recording in the basement.
Right.
Yeah, we recorded our first episode in my basement, and it came out terribly. So then we were like,
recorded up here.
No, not the first test run, but the actual first episode. We recorded in the basement. And then the audio came out really weird and shitty, even though we had been testing the mics for a week at that point. So then we had to re-record, just like we have been now. We're just using my phone.
Yeah, it was so interesting, because we were like, oh, mics are going to be really, really important. We're going to make sure that's why I say I think we had the mics first before we started recording, because we did get the mics first before we started officially recording.
Officially, yeah, but I had I don't know if I told her when I downloaded the app, then that might be it, because I remember playing around with Anchor for a week and a half.
That's probably what happened, because the thing is I am technology challenged.
She thinks she is. She's just not patient, and that's okay. She's not gonna like hearing this, but in that regard, she reminds me of my mom.
Oh Lord.
I'm on my way out to work. I'm making food. I got all my clothes on. I have my purse slung over my shoulders. I don't even wear a purse. I only take it with me when I'm going to work. And she's like, can you show me how to pull up clip art? That is one of the easiest things to do on the internet. She really, yes, Microsoft doesn't typically have the insert clip art function directly from its software anymore, but you can literally Google whatever the thing is you're looking for, clip art, or save it or whatever. And those are easy steps that I know she knows how to do. And she'll act like she has no idea what she's doing, but it's just because she's not patient enough to figure it out. And then Khairah here, she's redesigning our logo because I was like, I'm not doing it. I've been
That's
doing
not
that.
really how it happened.
No,
She
listen,
thought she
no,
prompted
mentally.
me into
No. Mentally, I was like, we need a logo. I'm not finna do it. I'm gonna ask her if she's gonna do it. And then if she tells me no, I'm gonna make her do it. But she didn't.
So here's what, okay, look, I need to insert myself real quick. So here's what happened when we were doing the logo. In my mind, I was like, okay, I'm gonna try and take this part over because I feel like I'm not doing enough other than talking. Because we're recording on her phone, she's doing all the editing. Because I hate hearing my voice, so that's great. Yeah. And I feel like I'm not doing enough. So in my mind, I was already planning on doing it. Now I didn't realize that we came to that decision completely together.
Separately, yeah.
Which works out. That's cool. But that just brought up another idea. Anyway, can you give me a pen?
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But we thought of that separately, independently, but at the same time, and then thought we were finessing each other out of it. And I knew what she was doing when she sent the message. She was like, so should I leave this to you, or do you want to? No, she said, should we come up with the ideas separately about what, and then come together, or can I just leave this to you? And I'm like, I already know what you're doing, and I already decided that I was going to do this on my own.
Mm-hmm. See, but then I sent her the evil, the purple emoji with the horns, but the one with the smiley face. That's my favorite one. But yeah, I sent that to her, and then a couple of days later, she's like, what did you get me into? And that was really funny, because Photoshop is some bullshit. I've only had it once when I was at U of M my freshman year, and they really didn't even teach us how to use he did. The teacher did his best to teach us stuff that wasn't necessarily in the curriculum, but there's still a specific skill set that they're trying to teach you because it's a school. So I didn't really get to learn how to use the app. I never learned how to edit photos with it the way I would have wanted to. Just shit like that. So I don't really know shit about Photoshop. Khairah does. And
now.
Yeah, you hear that? Yeah, man, yeah. And I'm pretty happy because I've been editing on GarageBand, and while that's some bullshit, that's still better than trying to edit through Anchor. Oh God, that was a whole nightmare. I tried to edit our first episode, and we talked for a while, so it was a whole 45 to 50 minutes trying to edit on software where I can't even zoom in and zoom out because it's on a cell phone. And it would have been completely different even on an iPad. But no. Anyway.
She was making her life hard.
Yeah, I was making my own life hard. GarageBand made things way easier. As much shit as people talk about GarageBand, that shit has been hella convenient. Just throw that out there. I also learned how to use GarageBand at U of M though, so shameless plug, the art department.
Well, actually, a lot of the different departments, complete side note, but a lot of different departments at U of M use GarageBand for editing because I had to use it for... Actually, I had to find a different one to use because I refuse to do anything Apple. And so I don't have an iPhone. I don't have a MacBook, whatever, all that Apple stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think GarageBand is only on Apple. Mm-hmm. And when I went to college back in my day,
a whole 2 years before me, yeah.
A whole 2 years, no. But back in my day, people were really getting into Apple everything. So I think when I started college, most people had Apple. I, of course, had PC and Android. Still have that. And so when we were in one of my English classes, we actually had to create a video for the match one of that. I can't think of the right word, but essentially matched up with the imagery that we had in the actual essay, and we had to start using GarageBand for it.
And that's video?
Because we had to edit some clips into it because we had to create a presentation.
I don't think you can do that on GarageBand. It had to have been something else that they were using because you can't do that.
Something similar to that. It sounded like GarageBand to me, but I know it was something that's specifically on Apple. But they also, no, we actually had to add audio, so they had to edit the audio on GarageBand, then add it to the clip. I forgot about that. So all of that stuff.
I'm over here flabbergasted because when I took like a 3D, I don't remember what the class was called, but they tried to make us buy Pro Tools, which is $300. And they sent that email out 2 weeks before the semester started. I was like, no, fuck you. I have the Adobe Creative Cloud. I'm just gonna use fucking Premiere because they do the same shit. And then he was like, oh, well, yeah, they do the same things. So then he would teach me, like, because I was emailing him and shit. I was like, just teach me how to do whatever you're teaching on this. Or, like, send me a link to figure it out. Something like that.
I don't know why the universities seem to forget, or, like, the professors forget that we're all college students and we broke. Regardless of wherever our parents come from or whatever.
No, that's not facts. A lot of those people were balling. Just dripping gold.
I was.
No, man, I know. Like,
and they not willing to drip any gold on me, so.
No, like, I think it's ridiculous that there are no scholarships at all for paying for, like, books and stuff like that. Yeah. It's always about housing and blah, blah, blah. What if I don't live on campus, but I really can't afford fucking books? You know what I'm saying? Just throwing that out there.
That actually happened to me. I mean, we're getting a little bit off track, but when I was in college, I was there on academic scholarship and FAFSA. Mm-hmm. Because my dad is dead and my mom is broke. And I have a lot of younger siblings. I'm not ashamed of it. It is what it is. And they didn't have a lot of different programs to help me buy books. The first semester, I didn't have any books. Mm-hmm. I had to borrow them from the library. I had one teacher who intentionally tried to failed me because I couldn't afford to get the book. And it was my Italian professor. And she kept saying the reason that I wasn't getting the language was because I didn't have the book, but she was preventing herself from helping me because I didn't have the book. It wasn't that I wasn't doing good with it. But it seemed like they didn't understand, and then there was no help to find a way to get the stuff.
Yeah, man, that shit is unreasonably expensive. Like, nowadays, you got a lot of people uploading the PDFs and shit like that online for free. I even saved it. I'm planning on going back to school soon. I mentioned this a while ago, but I saved a screenshot of, like, 6 different websites you can look PDF books up on, but they didn't have that kind of shit even just, like, 3-4 years ago where it was that widely available. And the closest we had was, like, Quizlet or Spark Notes. Yeah.
And sometimes Spark Notes didn't even help because teachers, caught on, and so then they will specifically pick stuff that wasn't included in the Spark Notes. Mm-hmm. So then I got away with it, but sometimes, like, you really had to figure out a way to get around that, especially if you didn't have the book. And we had to, like, it was finding the PDF started to be a little bit easier when I was going in, like, my final year of college. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, damn, where was all this shit before? That would have been so much help. And then you have so many professors who write their own textbooks now. Mm-hmm. So then there's no way to find it because it's not officially completely revised and published yet, so then there's no way for it to be on the internet yet, so you have to buy the unpublished, unedited version that costs $200. I actually had a professor that was like that, and I promptly dropped the class. Mm-hmm. He was an asshole, but
yeah, that's such a dickheadish thing to do, specifically to low-income students. But anyway, we got horribly off topic, and I don't remember what we were talking about right
why we started.
No, I remember that, the general. Okay, but
what were we talking about?
Yeah, I had to learn how to use GarageBand for long things because I used it to make like a 2-minute song for class, but the heavy duty, like, figuring out how to accomplish our specific goals with Photoshop fell to Khairah. And, like, of course, I don't mind doing technology stuff later on down the line, so, like, making, like, an actual logo for, like, if we ever need, like, letterhead paper or something like that. You know, just various, like, other small things are gonna fall in my lap, and I don't mind, because from probably March onward, Khairah's gonna be doing most of the ideas, because I think a lot of mine will be expired by then.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. We have a lot of really similar ideas, thank God, so that's,
great minds think alike.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree to that, because, again, I want to pick up my weight, so I don't want most of the burden to be on Kaylyn, and then I'm just kind of reaping the benefits. That wouldn't be fair. Mm-hmm. And that wouldn't be right. It wouldn't sit right with me personally. I can't do that.
But that's why I'm comfortable picking up. Like, we actually talked about this in regards to the apartment as well, which I think is really fucking funny. I don't make a lot of money. I probably make about, maybe on a good month, I make about $1,400 a month. So I realistically don't make enough to income qualify for any sort of apartment. But Khairah makes more than I do, so she would have to shoulder most of that burden. And she is not only aware of that, she's okay with that, because she knows I'm not just gonna be sitting there twiddling my fucking thumbs. I'm gonna clean, I'm gonna do the dishes, I will pay my partner rent, like groceries and shit. Yeah, so in that same regard, as far as this goes, I know that, especially because we've even talked about down the line maybe separating content. Like, we're probably still gonna have the podcast be our two things, but we're gonna have separate YouTube channels or something like that.
Yeah,
I'm fine with that, because I would even still be okay with editing for you on your own separate channel, just because I know that you would never like, you wouldn't cut me at the knees. I think, and I think that's great.
I mean, that's just not the type of person that I am, and I think that's one reason why we work well together. And this kind of goes into the video that I saw today, where these YouTubers were getting comments about, close friends shouldn't move in together, they shouldn't start businesses together and stuff like that. And it kind of had me a little worried for a little bit, but the thing is that, one, we have an understanding, and we've kind of been working together, and we know where our shortcomings are and where we'll pick up and leave off, and we also know that we're not going to like shortchange the other person.
I always have to disagree with Khairah when she says stuff like that, just because something can always go wrong.
You plan on shortchanging me?
Yeah, no. No, it's just, I know myself well enough to know that I don't know how I react in every situation. So,
I mean, that's fair. Nobody does.
No, but I think for me that kind of knocks my confidence when it comes to certain things. Like, I could never have full confidence that, especially considering all the factors, if we're going to say it like that, I can never have full confidence that being friends, having an apartment, and doing the podcast is going to be successful. Like, at some point, we might have to stop the podcast or move out to continue doing the podcast. You know what I'm saying? There's just shit like that. You never know what's going to happen. So for me, I have to be the contrarian. Just say like, but it might not. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Be realistic instead of being overly...
My cat's scratching right in the middle of the episode, even though she was just sitting here peacefully. I'm gonna throw something at her. Nothing hard, but maybe like a ball of tissue. You know what I mean? Why now?
Oh, you call it tissue now?
That's tissue. We had a whole back and forth because she calls toilet paper tissue.
It's tissue.
It's toilet tissue, but you still have to say the toilet part, or I'm gonna think you mean Kleenex. Personally.
So the reason that came up is because I think you were in my room or something, and I had a roll of tissue.
Yeah, she had a whole roll of toilet paper.
It's called a roll of tissue.
No, it's not.
And so she was like, "Oh, do you have tissue?" I said, "Yeah, the roll of tissue is right there." And she looked around. She was like, "There's a roll of tissue?" And I was like, "Yeah, right there." And she's like, "You mean toilet tissue?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I've been using it to wipe my nose."
Yeah, man, I do that when allergy season is real bad, because you just need a lot of shit to wipe your nose with. I went through like 4 boxes of tissue. Anyway. No, because I'm
box of tissue, roll of tissue.
No, roll of toilet paper. No, but I again, that's another thing about myself that I just have to be aware of. I get real hung up on semantics. So for me, I wonder if there's like, I be thinking I'm autistic sometimes, just because some shit literally does not make sense to me. It did not occur to me when you said roll of that you meant toilet paper. I'm like dead ass in my head like tissue. You know what I mean? Like thinking about Kleenex, like they make rolls of Kleenex. You know what I mean?
Here's the thing: is that makes it imperative of like the different type of background that we come from. And I can't attest to other people that grew up in the same area that I did, or if they referred to it that way, but the way that I grew up, that's just what we called it in our household. That's what it was. Like the grocery bags, plastic grocery bags, we grew up calling them Farmer Jack bags.
You call those trash bags?
Well, in our house, I understand that it's trash bags, but we call them Farmer Jack bags based on the store that
I remember going to Farmer Jack. I've just never heard you do that.
Well, I don't do it now because I know like there's a difference, and we've kind of grown out of it since my grandfather passed. But if I go to my house and say, "Hey, can you grab a Farmer Jack bag?" everybody knows what I'm talking about. So
that's an interesting topic. I want to talk about shit that's like specific to our families or whatever.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, but I've never heard you do that, so I would be interested to see if that's maybe just because you're in my parents' house. I wonder if you do that in the apartment.
I can guarantee you that it'll come up sometimes. I try to be conscious of certain things because, so, funny story is that when I was like in the 4th grade-ish, I had assumed that a lot of people, although realistically I knew that mother belongs to the person that you call your mom, and father is your dad, and your grandfather is grandparent, blah blah blah. I assumed that people knew what I was talking about when I said, "Oh yeah, my unsa bapa is blah blah blah," and I had one person that stopped and said, "You're what?" Mm-hmm. And I was like, "Oh, they don't know what that means." That's what we called my grandfather, my mom's dad. And in my mind, because I was so used to just calling him that, I assumed that other people had names for their grandparent like that, and I didn't know that they wouldn't know what I was talking about. Mm-hmm. And that kind of made me a little self-conscious of it. So sometimes I get embarrassed saying it in public, like unless I was talking to him specifically, I would get embarrassed saying it in public because people wouldn't know what I was talking about. So then I try to be conscious of that with certain things, because there's a lot of other things that my family says or sayings that they have that just don't make sense to other people, but it makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, man. I think every family is like that to some extent, but again, that's gonna be interesting merging our two differences. Yeah, because I definitely didn't think about it until you were saying it, but I kind of take for granted the fact that we're like in my parents' house doing all this. So like a lot of this is subconsciously familiar for me. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I mean, it's easy because like you're in a comfort place, so you're supposed to. If you weren't like that, then that would be something to be worried about. But you're supposed to be comfortable, so you're supposed to be able to let those barriers fall down.
Explain.
So you're supposed to be able to let, like, for you to not think or essentially take stuff for granted. You're supposed to, because you're in a comfort
give me
place.
a context. Give me a context.
Well, I can't give you one.
Okay, my brain is not making that make sense with what we were talking about, but I can see how that applies overall.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Overall, yeah. Okay. See, so I'm talking about my brain be like 3 steps behind, and that's okay.
I told you, I jump sometimes too.
Yeah. Khairah, I don't really know if it bothers her, but she reminds me a lot of my mom sometimes, and I think that's kind of funny.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, that time it bothered her. Yeah, there's just various stuff where I'm like, oh yeah, you kind of do that like my mom. And I've noticed that they tend to have a pretty good time talking to each other, which I think is hilarious.
Okay, I'll say in this way, because this is not the first time that you've said that. I think on recording too.
Mm-hmm. It's probably the third, to be honest.
We're not gonna count. But I will try to attest it to the fact that, one, I have a Sagittarius and one of my 3 main.
It's either your sun or your rising, or your
it's not
moon.
My sun.
No, it's either your moon or your rising sign.
It's my rising. My rising is Sagittarius, and her mom's son is a Sagittarius. And then, is this recording?
Huh? Yeah.
Okay. And then, also, I tend to get no offense to her mom, but I tend to get along with a lot of older people. Yeah. And I think it's because I have an old soul and I grew up with my grandfather being like a really, really big part of my life, that I just kind of like can gravitate towards the oldness in people, or the old soul in people. So having old people talks and all that is a thing for me. I think that's what we have on. Me and your mom.
No, I know what you meant. I just think that it's also like, Khairah and I made a few jokes about how my mom and my brother, they'll like be dead ass arguing with each other, but then it'll just be like, okay, I love you, I gotta go. And they'll be done. And it's so fascinating to watch, but my theory is it's because they're so similar. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's kind of like the barest amount the same with Khairah and my mom, because they'll get into it about some shit, and like Khairah is probably gonna be more upset than my mom is, because my mom is a Sagittarius, like to the purest extent. But Khairah, and I looked it up because we always get this backwards, she has a Sagittarius moon, so
damn,
always get it backwards. But because she's a Virgo sun, that Virgo is still gonna be irritated afterwards.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that's fun for me though.
That's not fun for me.
Hey, listen, it has to be to some extent, and then we talked about this just before we started recording, because when I have experiences like that, and this could just be me being the Leo sun or whatever, or Leo sun Virgo moon, but I don't know if it's both or just one, but when I have conversations like that, I'm probably not going to try and engage in anything like that ever again, because I know I'm going to get motherfucking irritated. Khairah keeps letting her rope her into conversations. So for me, and I know that's not the truth, but in my mind, the way I interpret that is, oh, you must like having those kind of conversations. And that's why I keep trying to bait her into debating with me. I'm not going to argue.
She gets it sometimes. Not all the time, though.
Most of the times when I'm actually trying, it does work.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Well, that's because you know how to finesse it now.
I always knew. I just had to start applying it. Because there's, okay, not to sound like a shitty person.
No, don't tell me the cues, because then I'll know and then I'll purposely avoid it.
You think you will. But I feel like it sounds the wrong kind of manipulative to say, like, because I like arguing with people, I will cater my conversation to starting that, like, a combative conversation, not necessarily an argument. I don't like when niggas start yelling, because I feel like that's just sloppy a little bit, you know what I mean? There's no point. But
nobody's listening at that point.
Yeah. Or like, oh man, my mom and I used to get into it, and there was certain points, like when I was getting towards the tail end of that, where I was like, I keep saying my shit exactly the same way, and she's responding with the same sentiment in different way, like different forms every time. So I either need to stop and clarify, like rephrase what I'm trying to say, or I need to straight up tell her, that's not what the fuck I meant, you're not hearing me, I'm leaving. You know what I mean? Because that's just shit. That's exactly why. If I feel like the conversation's not being productive in the slightest, or like, especially with my mom specifically. I never had these moments with Khairah as much as I've been comparing them the last few minutes.
Oh,
but no, man, my mom, I've been saying it, like, we'll be talking about points A, B, C, and D. I'm still at A. She's already at D, and she's talking as if we talked about B and C. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
She actually did that today, and it was interesting to watch. Okay, this is gonna sound creepy, and I don't mean it in a creepy way at all.
I said observing people isn't creepy.
I am very much a people watcher.
Yeah.
It's very interesting to me. I like picking up on people's habits, and being aware of it. It's really cool and interesting. Oh, that makes me sound like it. Well, I am.
No, man, I was gonna say we both do that. That's the Virgo. That's a good Virgo.
I really, really do like watching people and just sitting back and just observing and picking up people's habits. Because, and then the funny story is that because I was so good, I didn't realize I was good at it, but other people found out that I was. And they will ask me to mimic other people, and I can do that because I watch them. Mm-hmm. I will not do it in front of you. So, like, if I'm around you long enough, then I'll pick up on your habits, and I'll be able to do it in front of other people. And I wouldn't do it in a disrespectful way. I've never been like that. But I get embarrassed with doing it in front of that actual person that I can't do it because I'll be super embarrassed about it. But one time specifically is that I had just joined this group when I was in college. It was called Cross Culture. And one of the guys were trying to reach out and make me feel comfortable because they understood that I'm not, although I do talk a lot, I am not very extroverted. And so they were inviting me to go to this thing. He was like, oh, you can sit next to me if you want. That will, if that make you feel better, blah, blah, blah. And this was through a text message. He just sent it to me. And in my mind, through what he texted, I could literally imagine him saying it because there was a certain way that he spoke with, like, he almost spoke nervously. And he would kind of, he spoke nervously shy, which was really interesting.
Explain that.
So, this would be so cool if you were, like, physically recording because I could show you. So he would kind of look down or to the side, like almost unsure, like in a shy way. But then there was like a little bit of a stutter in the way that he was saying, almost as if he was trying to be cautious about what he was saying to not offend you.
Okay.
So, I wish I had the text message, but I remember going to the group the next meeting that we had, and he wasn't there. We were waiting on him. I was like, oh, he was so sweet. He sent this message, and he was, trying to make us feel comfortable. And I was like, and this is what he said. I could imagine him saying it, and I actually mimicked him saying it. And they were like, oh my God, that's so good. How did you do that? You have to do it in front of him. I'm like, absolutely not. No. And so then they was like, well, do this person. And I was like, oh, well, this is how they do this. And so then one person asked me to do them in front of him. I'm like, I can't do that. Nope. Like that embarrasses me. But I completely got off topic. I don't know where I was going, but I people watch.
Yeah, you were talking about watching my mom.
Oh, right. So her mom is really funny because sometimes she doesn't realize that she is very clear that she likes to argue, and that's probably where Kaylyn gets it from. And she is even though she's reached the point where she understands that she completely agrees with what you said, she is going to deny that she agrees with you and recertify that she actually agrees with what you said, but still say that she don't, just for the argument's sake. And it sounds really weird, but she will literally do that. And she was like, well, no, I don't agree that you're saying that, but I completely agree with what you just said. Like, yeah,
because she doesn't articulate, I agree with the thing you said, but not your overall point. So then it just comes across as, I agree, but I don't agree. Good God.
And sometimes she even agrees with the overall point. She just wants to be right.
I feel like on some level she truly does not think she agrees with you, because again, I grew up like this, and it was really the last like 3 or 4 years where she's gotten this articulate about it, because she used to just plow through with the first line of thought, and I have to like,
she still does it sometimes.
She does, and I have to make a point to say, wait, does this make sense? Do you agree with what I'm saying or not before we move forward? And then she'll say that, you know what I mean? Yeah, that's where that came from. That is not something she learned how to do on her own. And it's funny as fuck, like, okay, no shade to my mom, I love her to death or whatever, but one time we were having a conversation about how much we've changed over the years or whatever. She's like, yeah, I'm meditating now, I know how to do blah 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 blah, it looks like I'm rubbing off on you. Now,
if you could see my face.
If you could see my face, because the gall of such a statement, bro. The nerve. And not to say that she hasn't grown or she hasn't accomplished like new growth as because she's 60, you know what I mean? But to act as though you did that completely unprompted on your own baffles me.
That's not accurate.
It's not in the slightest, because she, even if like recently last year, My brother drove my car and then forgot to turn the lights off because I have an older car. You have to manually turn them shits off. And she comes and wakes me up and is like, you have to be an adult. Take care of your car, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, make this nigga... Like, if it's just about calling AAA to get it jumped or whatever, make him call. He's the one that let the lights die.
Here's the issue. Here's what the big issue was, because it wouldn't have been a problem if Kaylyn did it herself.
Yeah, if I did it myself, I would have just jumped it.
But then one of them had to leave in the morning, so they had to move her car. So they drove on the grass to do it, instead of just jumping her car, which would have taken a lot. It wouldn't have taken nearly as long.
Come on now.
And then on top of that, they took the time to handwrite out a note, walk up the stairs,
tape it.
Wait. I gotta do this right. They took the time, find a piece of paper, find a marker, write down the note on the paper, walk all the way up the stairs, tape it to the door, say nothing, but leave it on the door, knowing that she typically don't wake up till about an hour before she has to leave, and she has to go to work.
And they don't text me or nothing.
Nothing. Like, and it would have been different even if they text her and be like, hey, I kind of had to rush. It looks like Tom or, your brother left the thing on. Can you call AAA? Completely different.
That's not how it went. You need to take care of your responsibilities and blah, blah, blah. Bitch, I just woke the fuck up.
And she didn't do it.
I didn't do it. And then it
was right before you had to go to work. And that was my biggest thing. It was like, how am I going to have... AAA is really cool. It's really awesome and stuff like that. But sometimes they are a little late.
They take their motherfucking time. And I will say we're like kind of lucky. The AAA like outsourcing area is on 11 and Green. Maybe I shouldn't say that. It's near my house. It's around the corner. So they relatively can get here quickly. You know what I'm saying?
I mean that they will.
But the fact of the matter is, I have to go to work. I have to, like Khairah said, I get up about an hour beforehand. So I have to be there at 3. My ass is up at 2. And you're telling me...
At 2:15.
You knew at 8 o'clock this motherfucking morning that the car needed to be jumped, and you still would rather wait until 2 o'clock. So what I did, because I'm a petty as fucking shit, and I'm not gonna argue with you, I took Khairah's car, drove over the grass, left my shit right there at the end of the driveway, because I don't give a fuck. Like, that's something. And then I came back, and guess what? They took care of it, because it wasn't an actual issue that the parents had. It was my mom specifically.
And they didn't even call AAA. They jumped it themselves.
No, he did call AAA.
I thought they jumped it.
No.
Oh,
yeah.
You don't have jumper cables?
I guess not. And I guess I was the only one that had any, but mine got stolen when I worked at U-Haul, so I had to go buy some.
We have to get some more.
Yeah, they're like $20 at AutoZone. Shameless plug.
There you go.
Yeah, $30 probably. Anyway, point was that that's still the kind of pattern of behavior that she has displayed over her entire adult life, and any changes came from me being like, I don't want to be involved in that anymore. Because even this is so, I feel like I shouldn't be talking like about my mom like this, but my brother and I even had a conversation where, like, the way that she pretends to be someone she is not is kind of like
jarring.
Not even, it's because I watched the progression, you know what I'm saying? I feel like another issue is that parents don't think you know them as well as you do, as if you grew up around other people. You're the only person I've been around my entire life. I know you pretty well.
I can articulate that because my mom did the exact same thing.
The same shit, bro.
The only reason they think that you don't know them as well as you do is because they've been here longer.
And that makes no motherfucking sense, because that means that you've been this person the whole time that I've known you. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean,
that's all that
I knew
means
your
to me.
Insides. Come on now.
Okay, I don't remember that kind of shit, but
of course we don't. But I'm just saying,
some people do, which is weird.
I don't. But I'm just saying.
But like, I've heard your heartbeat, bitch. Come on now.
Well, I mean, I climbed back up, but
oh God, and she trying to reach for it. Jesus Christ. Yeah.
I was saying, don't take me.
No. Anyway, point was though, like, if anybody knows you well, it's gonna be us, because us, like, we're the family that you made. I don't know anybody else but you. My entire perception of the world is shaped through who you are as a person. so of course I know who you are. You know what I'm saying? And we're gonna have a whole episode about that, so I do think that was good to bring up just in general, so we can harp back on that later. But the point, like, I know that why you're choosing to disagree with this. I know why you're picking this specific argument. And again, it's the fact that she tried to act like, oh, I'm such a changed person, blah, blah, blah. You didn't do that on your own. I literally had to say, like, I forgive you even though you will never apologize. You don't think you were wrong, even though you're a grown-ass woman arguing with a child. I literally don't know any better, but I'm the one at fault. So I'll take the responsibility. She never did that, and that pisses me off to this day. I'm probably never going to get over it, like, on a real world level, but I got over it enough to now have a good relationship with my mom. Ooh.
And we're not trying to harp on her or say, like, you know, just say she's not a bad person.
Not at all. She just is who she is. Yeah.
She is who she is, and we love her to pieces. I love her to pieces.
Mm-hmm.
I do have interesting conversations with her, but everybody has their faults. I have mine. I just didn't air them out.
Not yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Just wanted to put that in there.
Yeah, to bookmark it with that. I don't know if we really have anything to talk about specifically about making the podcast, because I did want to get back to that, but
well, I mean, I think all of this kind of talked about it. We like to have
horribly off topic,
but yeah. That's the point. That's the point. That's the reason why we started. We have good conversations that often lead into the other conversations, and somebody gotta like to hear it.
I'm actually okay. So that you inadvertently brought up something I did want to talk about. So hey, it worked.
Nice.
I've been watching Markiplier, MySperm, and Lord Minion 777 do their 3-peen in a podcast, and I'm not gonna put the channel out there because they're not supposed to be doing it, but they combine all of their streams for like a one big ass 3 to 4 hour live stream. And one of the ones they were watching, or that I was watching recently, Mark was talking about how you should not try to be a content creator if you're not truly enjoying the content that you're putting out. And I've had more of an issue with this than Khairah has, but my initial drive for starting the podcast was almost entirely monetary, and it's grown more into the creative pursuit the more that I've done this. But like back in November, October, I was like, oh yeah, this will help boost my income, because like I said, I only make about $1,400 a month, and that's like, in the real world, that's not a lot of money. So I'm like, if we do this, the podcast, if it does well, it'll boost so and so and such and such, and then if the podcast does well, the YouTube will do well, or vice versa, whatever. And that's not a good reason to be doing it. And I don't think I told Khairah this, at least not in like plain English or whatever, but I was starting to not have fun, I was starting to not have fun necessarily recording the podcast. I'm having a great time editing because I can put in like the SpongeBob dolphin noises, the Jeopardy music, like we have our own running gags now, and I love inside jokes, so shit like that has been fun. But then it got to the point where like I felt, and that's why I don't like that we kind of drift off topic like that, because I feel like then I don't get to put my intention behind the podcast. If it was to put out my best thoughts, I feel like I'm not doing that if we're constantly losing the train of thought. You know what I'm saying?
That's fair. Because
we're always going to have, specifically because we do talk a lot, there's always going to be something to talk about. But if we're going to title the episode something specific, then I want to get all my thoughts about that. But then on the flip side of that, I'm not, because we're both technically quote unquote overthinkers. I hate when people say that, but that is how it would be described. So I'm like, I want to know every angle of what I'm trying to convey so that I can convey it properly, and I can't do that if I'm coming up with it on the fly. And I think it was the names episode that really got me the most, because I was like, damn, I don't have shit to talk about. Like,
I think I'm mostly like that too. I don't particularly like to not know what I'm talking about, but I don't worry so much about it, because I know that we have, for the most part, articulate conversations.
She's good at talking.
Shameless plug. No.
I know, yeah, shit.
So, but we have articulate conversations. Don't let her shit on herself, because she's really good at talking too. She just doesn't think she is.
No, man, I feel like specifically because I know for a fact I'm listening to these episodes more than she is, because I gotta listen to it at least 3 times while I'm editing, and then I try to listen to at least half of it once it's posted. But like, there's been plenty of times where I'm like, damn, I never got back to that thought, and it was a really good one that I wanted to expound upon. Or like,
I mean, I do that too, and I'm like, oh, I wish I said this different. Oh, I could have said it like that. That would have sounded so much better. I do that all the time. I still do that. But to be fair and be lenient on us this time, we had 2 different topics that we were planning on talking about, and we would have been more articulate about it. That's the reason why this episode is kind of like all over the place. For both of us and our type A personality traits, we like to have more organized. I know I like to have more organized thinking as far as that. There's a lot of stuff about me that's not organized, but having my thoughts when I'm speaking has to be organized for me, because I don't like sounding stupid.
Yeah, same.
So
same.
That's a really big thing for me. But we have to give ourselves a little bit of leniency, because I'm just gonna put it out there. We don't like to talk about politics. I don't like to be involved in it. I don't like to watch it. So I avoid it at all costs.
Yeah, we were going to talk about the inauguration.
We were, because we expected stuff to pop off.
And not even like in a completely dramatic way or whatever, but there's just, I remember when Trump got inaugurated, there were just so many thoughts going through my head that I didn't have an outlet for.
Yeah.
I didn't give a single fuck about anything that happened this time.
Well, I forgot that it was coming on. Then I put it on. Like most of my coworkers, because they have we've all been directly impacted by his presidency, but some more than others, and some people were actually crying, and I was like, not to be offensive or anything, like in my mind, my mind was like, well, is it that serious? Like, I know that it's serious.
It is, yeah.
And I like, it sounds bad for me to word it that way. I don't know how else to word it, but I didn't feel the need to cry about it.
No, yeah.
So that was my take on it. So it was really interesting that people were crying. And people that I know that were crying. I'm not discrediting it or anything like that. Don't take it the wrong way.
No,
it is
Trump
very
was getting
serious.
people's family members deported.
Yeah, and that was part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm absolutely saying that it was absolutely necessary. It was absolutely detrimental that he is out of office. Don't get me wrong. I just wasn't that emotionally charged by it, because of I wasn't impacted in that particular way. Mm-hmm. But then that also had me questioning, like, okay, now that we're in the new presidency, how is that going to change now? Like, is he going to bring those people back for you? Because that needs to happen.
It's not gonna.
It's not. But that's the sad part. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes me sad, because they have so much hope, because Trump is not there anymore to cause these issues, but then there's no plan to reverse it.
And that's why I don't like talking about politics, because my mom will tell me that I'm overly cynical, but like, why should I have faith in a system that historically has never worked? And she's like, oh, but it works. It did this
historically never worked for people of color.
No, people, period. Like, realistically, there's no way in fuck we should still be, like, it should not be monumental that we have a woman vice president. We've been a country since the 1800s. That's embarrassing. That's ugly and sloppy to me. And
all of these other countries have had female presidents,
queens, kings, and we're over here tit for tat about some old white men. I don't give a single fuck. Like, realistically, I don't think anybody over the age of 65 should have any input on what I say and do in my life, because we're so far apart. You guys were still alive during the fucking, like, Great Depression and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? You people were literally, you grew up in circumstances that are no longer relevant. Why are you telling me
how I should live my life?
Why? And like shit like the minimum wage and blah. Okay, but anyway, the point was, hopping back on track, because I hate when we do that. Right. Yeah.
So point is that we were planning on talking about that, but what we expected to happen really didn't. We thought there was going to be Trump supporters acting out, and that would have given us fuel to talk about other stuff. But it didn't happen. It was very calm. It wasn't something very interesting to watch. I literally had it playing in the background the whole time while I was at work.
Same.
So we both decided that mutually decided that it wasn't anything.
Wasn't the fuel for that fire.
The podcast would probably be like 5 minutes pushing it. And so then we decided that, okay, we'll do the 16 personality test. And we told you how that happened. We literally tried to do the test, and they wanted us to pay too much money. So, and on something that may not even have any grounds or standing anyway. It was just something fun. So
yeah. And we could have probably found different personality tests and shit like that, but that's not the point. Yeah, that's not the point. And I don't think Khairah's actually low-key been wanting to talk about why we made a podcast for a while, and I was like, I kept pushing it off because I didn't have shit to say.
I thought, you know what? I thought that would have been more to say, and then we started talking about it, and I'm like, oh. And I looked at the time, and I was like, 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, we made it to about an hour now. We're doing pretty good. But again, that's because of all the off-topic stuff, and like, for me at least, because I am the one going back and listening to this and editing and blah blah blah, it's like, good example for the episode that we did on our North Nodes. There was a whole like 2.5 minute chunk where we were talking about some shit, and I was like, none of this needs to be in the episode, so I cut all of it out. And that helps a lot as far as keeping the runtime down and shit like that. Because again, editing an hour's worth of audio is mind-numbingly boring sometimes. But it's still fun to like, because I can change the colors of the tracks and blah blah blah. That's not the point. It's still hard to see like, yes, this feels like something I want to put out into the world when it's not even
cohesive.
Yeah, and like it could be coherent, it's just not cohesive. So yeah, good word.
But what I will say is I'm glad that you are enjoying the podcast a little bit more.
Yeah, because I don't know, man. It's specifically because of the Markiplier thing. I saw that maybe about a week and a half ago. Really wasn't that long ago. But I was like, what part of this am I actually enjoying? Because I do, like, when we started this, my intention was to eventually have my own YouTube channel. And I do still kind of want to do that. But I couldn't even decide what kind of YouTuber I wanted to be. Yeah, so my intention was always to have my own YouTube channel, or at least maybe to consider that at some point, but I couldn't decide what kind of YouTuber I wanted to be, to the point where, like, I don't like trying to be funny, because then I feel like a jester, like, you know what I mean, like, dancing around with bells on my shit. I don't like the idea of pigeonholing myself only talking about spiritual stuff. I don't like the idea of just showing people my life, or, like, a version of my life, putting on a persona, you know, just shit like that. But all the kind of YouTube channels that I watch either require way more effort than I can put into something right now, or it's like the commentary channels. I really like those hour-long videos where they're talking about so-and-so did this, here's because they're researching it themselves. That's something that never occurred to me just as a normal consumer, but the more we're doing this, I'm like, damn, like a John Solo, they're literally going out and finding, yeah, man, Khairah put me hip, but they're literally going out and finding each component of the things that they're talking about, and then they're writing a script, because that is an insane amount of work to do for 10-20 minutes a week. You know what I'm saying? Because that doesn't include the editing even. That doesn't include the trimming of the video, the audio, the sponsorships and stuff. Like, being a content creator has showed me really how much work these niggas are putting in. And I'm endlessly impressed, to the point where we're still going to do this once we start recording. But I want to have an episode where we're, like, putting other people on a spotlight. And it doesn't have to be, like, I feel like the people that would get the most out of that technically would be smaller YouTubers, but I just want to put people whose content we actually enjoy, because that is so much work.
Yeah.
They're working really hard, because think about a TV show. They're doing every element of that. There's hundreds, tens of people in the credits for a TV show, but then when you look in a YouTube channel, it's about 3 people. If that. And these niggas are posting way more often. It's not one show a week. It's every day, every week, and that's for years.
Like, people will get, like, irritated, like, and even I'm guilty of it myself before, like, this, I got into the other end of it. Like, oh, they're not posting often enough. I wish they had more episodes. I want to watch more of this. And then you get to the other end and you're like, well, damn.
I can see
there's
why
so
you're
much
not,
effort that, but you on the outside looking in, you always think it's well, the grass is greener on the other side. You always think that it's gonna look, or that it's easier, and then you do it and you're like, yeah, I fucked up.
This shit is complicated. And the other side of that is what we're going to be talking about in a whole separate episode about just being a business owner. But then these people are the most multi-talented people I've ever met. They're business owners. They're content creators. They're behind-the-scenes software editing and shit like that. All the props in the world to all of you. Just want to throw that out there. Yeah. That shit is insane. Insane. Anyway, my phone has been acting up. These last 3 or 4 minutes probably sound real disjointed. Bear with me. But yeah, I think we should start wrapping it up. We've gotten to about an hour of content. We've got some personal lessons to take care of. Yeah, so
maybe we'll talk about that some other time.
Hell fucking no. I'm not putting that on it. Okay.
No, not all of it.
No, listen. I don't like
about in general.
I don't like I'm really comfortable talking about that kind of shit in person, but like I don't want any of that on the internet just in case somebody comes back and is like, you were on Kaylyn. Because I'm gonna bleep it out. It'll be funny, and I'm gonna have it do the 2 bleeps. Yeah, so it's like, you were bleep. Yeah, it's gonna be great. But yeah, no, I don't want people digging up old content with shit like that, because I'm gonna have to own up to it based on the type of personality that I have.
Yeah,
and I don't want to claim that. So
that's fair.
Yeah. Anyway,
so we won't get into that, but we do have some personal things to take care of.
Personal lessons to take care of. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. I am at Kaylyn was here _. My name is in the title of the episode.
And I am Khairah. Khairah is Khairah _ is _here. On Instagram
and Twitter.
I now have a Twitter.
Whoop, whoop, whoop,
Kaylyn has made that for me.
Yeah.
So you can follow that. It'll be in the description below.
Yep, and I think that's going to wrap up our episode for today.
So with that being said, Khairah is here.
Kaylyn was here. And thanks for listening.
Bye!